What is up, everybody? It's Michael B. And with me, the one, the only, it is he, Travis MCP. That's
Hey,
my
look at
wrestling
you.
intro for the night.
Goodness gracious, you are on fire tonight. What are
Oh,
you
that's not
into?
bad. Travis, I want to say thank you so much for reaching out to me earlier today and asking if I was going to stream about this tonight. I wasn't originally planning on it, but when I get an opportunity to talk to you and really give people an opportunity to ask you some questions, I'm absolutely going to take it. So thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, I mean today's one of those days, right? The thing is, there's a lot behind the scenes that have happened over the last couple of weeks, and also I know that you had asked me earlier, like, hey, can you answer some questions from the community? And I'm all game for that. Let's do it. Let's have some fun. Listen, it's the first time in a long time Arcade1Up has released a new title. It's been since what, like MVC 2 or something, right?
Yeah, that was the last time it was a new title. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a minute.
It's been a while. So the first thing I want to talk to you about, I did a reaction type video earlier today, and when I was watching the stream, I noticed the fact that it seemed like there wasn't the community engagement we normally get from that One Up show or
Mhm.
Arcade One Update. And I was like,
Yeah.
is this pre-recorded?
Right.
And that's the assumption I made. You quickly told me, no, it wasn't pre-recorded. So do you want to talk a little bit about that? So the show
Yeah.
was in fact live this morning, but it was done in a different format than we're really used to.
Yeah, so here's the thing. And I don't think I'm speaking out of school. I'll tell you like exactly what happened because it's funny. It's nothing that's like bad. It's just so I was actually asked to be on the show, but the times got shifted between the original time that they were going to do it, which was going to be the normal time, like 3 p.m. Pacific, which was normally when they were going to do it, to all the way to the point where they were going to do a run through at 5 a.m. my time. Now I'm out, bro. I can't pee straight at 5 a.m., let alone try to talk to somebody, right? Can't happen. So I was out at that point. I'm like, nope, not doing it. But I did consult on, what was going to happen and everything. And one of the things I said was, and obviously they didn't go with this. I said, if you're not going to engage with the community, you should just do a produced video.
Yeah.
And because I said there's no benefit to going live unless you're engaging with the community and answering community questions. Otherwise, what's the point? Like, there's no point for this. So I obviously didn't go with that, which is fine. It is what it is. It was just my opinion. And I still believe that. I still think that all it did was make John have to get up way early in the morning. And here's the reason why they had to do it so early. And ironically, it still didn't work. Arcade went up. The reason they did it so early is because they were going to release those press releases early. They said at 6 a.m. Pacific. So they kept pushing it back because John knew I needed this video before the press release. Otherwise, it's going to look silly again, right? And they did it anyway. It still happened. Like Best Buy got out. I think it was on the website earlier or something. I mean, I was asleep. I don't know. But it's like, so John went through the hassle of getting up early o'clock to do all this. And John doesn't get up at 6, I don't think. I mean, if he does, he's never went to sleep in the first place.
No, I've talked to John at 8:30 in the morning here my time, which must be 4:30 his time. So there's no way he's normally getting up at 6 in the morning.
It's ridiculous. So he did all that, and I'm glad now. I would have been pissed if I had woken up and said, "Okay, fine, I'm gonna do this," and that happened. I would have cussed everyone out and went back to sleep because it doesn't make any sense. So I've since talked to him and I've said, "Listen, you gotta do this different. You got to do it like the night before." He said, "I'll try. Maybe they'll do it the night before next time or whatever," to avoid the miscommunication in Arcade1Up. Just it's rampant. I'm just gonna say that sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. It is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's not uncommon with businesses that are spread out when you have satellite offices and different things like that. Like it's not a huge company. I mean, it's still a small shop, but still you have people all over the place and different factions form in different areas of the company. You did a little bit of stuff with. Did you ever do some stuff with At Games over the years? Like
I have, and I'll be doing more later this year once
Yeah.
that 4K thing comes out.
So At Games at one point had two different companies. They had like the Taipei office, and then they had their normal office, and it was always like miscommunication between the two sides of the company. So that's pretty common in all these any tech company really.
I've been really fortunate with our At Games. I've only ever really worked with PK. Like I've never worked with anybody else. But yeah, no, it's true. Like even so there's, for example, I got an email earlier today from a sponsor to do something with a larger brand, but I'm not talking to the brand. I'm talking to the agency that is connected to them. So yeah, I get that. But in this particular case, when you are the company trying to get the things that you would think, of course, they have no control over Best Buy.
Yeah.
But they do themselves. So was it on the website before the stream or no? Was it just Best Buy?
Yeah, about an hour and a half before the stream, I got a message from my buddy 19K Fox, and he sent me the Best Buy link, and then everybody started piling the link up on the Facebook pages, sending it to me. So I had my thumbnail ready to go before the show even went live.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, it is what it is. It's now past, so now we're here. So let's talk about the game. So I first heard about this game late last year. So I've known about it for a very long time. And I wasn't really, so when I first heard about it, I'm like, wait a minute, was that an arcade game? And then I went, oh, that's the game I always see in movie theaters.
Yeah.
Because I never see it in arcades. That's why at first I'm like, it's an arcade game. Oh yeah, it's the thing that's all outside of all the movie theaters out here. And I started asking questions. Immediately I'm like, oh, so does it have online? No. Huh. But it's going to be linkable. And I'm like, so I didn't understand that. People are excited about that, and I think it's great that they have that ability. But that means, of course, A, you need the space for it, and B, you need to buy two, and there's all
multiple cabinets. Yeah,
multiple cabinets. And I still think pinnacly it'll be racing games online. Like if this had online racing, even though I've never had an interest in Fast and Furious, and we'll show some footage later. In seeing the footage of this game, and then imagining online play, I probably would get it. And it's funny because the only two racing games I ever care about at all is Daytona and San Francisco Rush. Everything else I don't care about. Those are the only two.
Well, I think a lot of YouTubers and a lot of people on YouTube have talked about Arcade1Up releasing the Fast and the Furious, and it was kind of met with a little bit of an indifferent stance. And it's not because there's anything really wrong with the Fast and the Furious. I mean, I've never played it, so I can't comment on that, but it looks like it's a really fun game, and it has a lot of really hardcore fans. The statement's been made a couple times. It's a cruising clone, but other people have said it's an evolution of cruising. It's where the game went to. So, I mean, take that for what it is, but it's hard not to look at it that way where, you know, this is an arcade company. They're making classic arcade games, and you have these elephants in the room or these Goliaths out there like Daytona, like, you know, Rush, like Cruisin', and every time they announce a racing game and it's not one of those, people are going to question why they released something else. Same thing happened with Ridge Racer. It was like, oh, Ridge Racer, cool. Where's Daytona? Where's Cruisin'? Where's San Francisco Rush?
Yeah, I think what's happening, I think, you know, when I first heard it, like, again, I heard this last year. So I was like, why are they doing Fast and Furious? And when you realize that a movie's coming out in 2023, and now that it's a month away, it totally makes sense. Listen, they're trying to get this thing. When they make a game, they don't make it for us. They make it for everybody.
Retailers.
They want people to buy this stuff. And the best way to do it is have a tie-in with a movie. Like there's no other better way than to have a movie come out about the damn game that you have. If people who've never seen this video game before go and watch the Fast and Furious and they're all charged up and they go into their local Best Buy and like, oh, Fast and Furious, there's a chance it might get bought, right? And that's all that matters to Arcade1Up because they have to sell these things.
Yeah.
So I respect that and I get that and I understand that. Having said that, much like everyone else, I'm down for Daytona or Rush, but only if it has online racing. Now, here's the thing that I didn't really understand until I did some digging into why this particular game and other racing games, I don't know if Ridge Racer even had multiplayer, but why they don't have online multiplayer. It turns out that the processing power for a racing game is actually higher than it is for like a fighting game. And
big time.
Which I didn't understand until I started thinking about it and then had someone who was a developer explain it to me. So for those who don't know, when you're looking at a fighting game, and let's say Michael B is playing Killer Instinct like he did the other day,
and gets whooped by Travis.
and then my guy comes and jumps around. There's one thing that doesn't really change. It's the background. Like you're seeing the same thing. It's just that your character's moving, and that's the data that has to move across. In a racing game, if Mike is way ahead of me, he's seeing completely different graphics and completely different areas that I'm not seeing. So that sync has to happen. It's not just, okay, my character's here, his character's there. It's like the car is here, there's another car here. There's a lot going on that has to be transferred. And these older games, like Fast and Furious, were built on software that assumed that the latency between the games is going to be very fast because they're connected, which means somewhere in the range of probably under, if we're assuming here, under 50 milliseconds, which is super easy to do wired or even Wi-Fi in the same area. It's darn near impossible to do regularly on the internet.
Yeah.
And what can happen is if you try to do that, you desync, you may have weird issues, bugs, crashes, whatever, because you can't get the latency down to where the base game was programmed to always expect a sync signal from the other game. So that's where it has something to do with that thing. And Code Mystics has nothing to do with this game, Big D. You will see Gemini, which is the leaderboard, but Code Mystics not having. And another little thing that people don't know about. So Gemini, which is the leaderboard that will be on Fast and Furious, was not specifically, and I don't know what this means, this is just what I was told, was not specifically made for like a steering wheel, so navigating through it might be weird. But I don't know what that means. That's just what I was told. These are the words I were told.
Yeah. When someone says something really tech heavy to me about like the way the specs work, arcade and all that stuff, it's just goes right over my head. So another thing John talked about today was the graphics for the game. And I didn't fully understand what he was saying during the video. I don't know if you have more insight into this or not, Travis, but so the graphics for the game, are they the original ROM or are they more of an upscaled version like they did for NFL Blitz, or is it just the original graphics?
Question. It's a great question. So a couple of things. Number one, it's a port by Raw Thrills, which is the best news you can get. So if you can avoid emulation where possible, it's great because you get a lot more access to being able to optimize the game for the hardware that you're on. So this is the best possible kind of scenario. It is not an emulated game. It's a port, which is great. Typically with ports, you can do things like up-res, like they did on Blitz, or make the frame rate maybe potentially even better, like they did with Blitz. Because by the way, Blitz in the arcade was like 51, or it was never really 60. It's 60 now, which is a great thing. It's awesome. So this is a port. Having said that, I think everything I've heard about it is standard, except for this one thing which annoys me and really I was really upset about it until I started seeing a lot of footage direct from the machine, which includes not just what you're going to show in a little bit, but like direct from the PCB. I've seen footage. It's that it's 30 frames per second. And I guess the original game was in arcade was 60. But what's interesting is apparently cruising, which is kind of the thing everyone wants, was 30 in the arcade. I wasn't aware of this. But if that's the case, then okay, well then I guess it's not that big of a deal. So when I started seeing footage of it, I was like, oh, okay, it's actually not that bad. Like I thought it was going to be something I was just going to be cringy about and just really rip Arcade1Up a new one about, which I still need to talk about because I think that this is an issue. But when you see it, and you should probably show some of the footage that you got, it looks good.
Yeah, so we got some footage here that Travis and actually John both sent me at the same time to share tonight. So let me just bring it up on screen. This is an exclusive video of Fast and Furious Drift. So we're going to get to see a little bit of gameplay. And I got to tell you guys, I watched this a little bit earlier. It looks really cool.
It looks fun, man.
Yeah.
And like I said, and we said this, first of all, I want that shirt. That merch looks so cool, right? With the yellow line.
They got to get off their ass and get that merch up. I don't know why it's so hard.
I know you're watching merch. You want this shirt. Yeah, every time I see footage from this game, it makes me actually want it. And Mike B and I were talking about it before the stream. We're like, I never really wanted this game until I started watching footage of it. And then I'm like, oh, I wouldn't mind. I kind of want to play this.
It's just fun. I mean, it just looks fun.
Yeah, it really does. Could we possibly hit the lucky spot and get another $2.99 deal in a couple of months like people did with Ridge Racer? I don't know. The question is, how many casuals will buy it? Because that'll have a big impact on it.
Yeah.
Because this is a bigger name than Ridge Racer. For hardcore gamers, Ridge Racer might be the more like street cred game, but the reality is Fast and Furious is a much bigger title in the world. So, 6,000, who knows how long that goes? Who knows?
Yeah, this will have more, I guess, mainstream appeal is the right term for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's important. Every time I see this, and I saw some other stages a couple of weeks ago that were running off the actual PCB that, again, I haven't played the game before, looked incredible. I'm like, I actually want to play that stage. Like it was something that was like in hell or something. It was in fire. And I'm like, holy crap. and it was from this PCB. Now, someone was asking, is it lock 30? I think that's a great question. It's very important and impossible to tell on phone cameras taking, you know what I mean? It's impossible to know. I'm assuming that it is because, again, we're thinking it's raw thrills and maybe they're going to do the best, but there's no one can sit here and tell you that other than raw thrills. It looks really smooth though. Yeah.
So something I found a little bit humorous earlier, I saw some comments on the live stream, and so there were some comments on my video too, questioning like the graphics, and they were like, "Oh, it looks like N64 stuff," and I was like, "Guys, do you know when this game came out? We're not far off that era."
Yeah, and it's funny because people are like, "Oh, I love Street Fighter 2 or whatever," and it's like those are pixels. I mean,
yeah,
still, I mean, yeah. So we'll see what happens. It's a big title. Who knows? Who knows if it'll sell well or not? I don't know. If it goes down in price and hits like one of those bargain basement, which, by the way, if it happens, it will have more to do with Best Buy than it will Arcade1Up or anything else. Because here's the thing: since they're mostly being sold exclusively through Best Buy, which from what I understand is this first batch, I don't know what'll happen after that. Here's the thing: a lot of people don't know. They go, "Oh, Arcade1Up drops price." Arcade1Up rarely has anything to do with it. It's the retailer. If Best Buy gets sick of sitting on stock, they will drop the price. It's not Arcade1Up's fault. They're fulfilling however many Best Buy wanted. If Best Buy can't sell them, and they're realizing that they're not selling very fast, then you will see the price drop. Because if you know anything about retail, the longer a product sits on a shelf or sits in storage, the more it costs them. So of course they want to get rid of them.
Yeah, especially if the retailers are putting them in store. I mean, that's where all the Walmart sales came from. I mean, what they'll lose on selling the product at a discounted price actually is better for them than what they'll lose having it sit taking up retail space where they could be making more money.
Yeah. Oh, also another interesting little thing. So originally, I guess I can say this, 420 was supposed to be in California in person with 4 cabs linked up. I might even have gone to that. I don't know. It was in San Francisco. It was supposed to be, but they couldn't get them I mean, like these were hard for even Arcade1Up to get. John wanted to get 4 and have them in the back and do like we did Star Wars, and that would have been a cool thing. And then have people from the community there playing, which I think would have been amazing. But that didn't work.
Yeah, if they could ever set that up, I think that'd be a fun community event to do, kind of like a reveal or a launch, like do that 1UP show live and then have community people that can come in, do an event like iArcade does with their Game and Brew night, except have it around the launch of a product. I think a lot of people in the community would love some kind of opportunity to do that with Arcade1Up.
I agree. So to answer some people's questions, I think I saw a couple of things about you can do it Wi-Fi, which I was only aware of recently. I've known that you could connect them with a wire for a while, but I was not aware of the Wi-Fi thing until very recently. So that's a cool thing. What else are people asking?
Well, we're going to get to questions in a little bit. I wanted to kind of go through our stuff first and then turn the second half into community questions. That's so cool. I do have another question about the linking technology, and I find it so fascinating because obviously with racing games, I mean, if you go to most arcade collectors' homes, if they have a racing game, they usually have 2. The linking thing is a really popular thing for fans of racing games. Like you said, you're a big San Francisco Rush fan. You go to anybody's house, there's 2 of those green foam chairs right next to each other all the time. So the linking thing is really smart, and I think it's something people will be interested in doing. I know there's a lot of people in the community will do it. You mentioned the $2.99 thing, and I'm thinking that if it ever does go on sale, that's when you'll see a lot of people start buying the second cab for the linking. 100%. But for the linking technology, at first when you heard about it, did you have the same guffaw that I guess some people in the community are about, like, so I have to buy 2 cabs to play 2-player?
Yeah. So one of the things when it first came out and they told me that, oh, it's going to be linked, not online, I'm like, so people have to buy more than to me, it didn't ring. But what was interesting is, again, I've known since the end of last year, but over the last couple of weeks, as things leaked and everything, it was interesting to see people in chat talk about if it links, which I don't know where that came from, then I would probably buy 2. And I thought that was a really interesting comment. Like, oh my God, maybe they got this, maybe they figured this out on accident. Maybe they tripped over themselves and figured it out on accident. It seems ridiculous until FOMO starts hitting people. And I think that's what's going to make people buy 2. I don't think there's going to be a lot of people that do it. I think there's just going to be some hardcores that do it. I think I saw someone in chat earlier ask, where are you going to put your 2? But so yeah, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, it seemed risky to me, and I'm like, are you really but it's a good single player game too. So I suppose who cares?
Yeah, I mean, there's no harm in adding options. Options are fine, right? But
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
were locked in, you had to buy two. That's when you'd be like, "Come on, guys."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we'll see. Like, I'm really interested in two things. I'm interested in Sheline getting a copy of it, or Ralph getting it, and then comparing it to what Sheline already has. Which I'm
Yeah.
99% sure Sheline's going to get one sent to her. I'm almost positive she's going to get one, which is going to be the review to watch. That's going to be the review to watch because she'll literally be able to have it right next to her real deal. So that's the review to watch. Secondarily, I think what'll be interesting is the first person that actually connects to. Now, I've seen video footage off the PCB of 4-player gaming. It did not slow down. It looked great. And again, that was the moment I'm like, oh, I actually kind of would maybe want this. And then realized, oh, I would need to have 3 people at my house doing that to make this happen. So never mind.
So I think now is the appropriate time to put pressure on Arcade1Up, because if they're going to send one to She Lion, I don't think there's much point in sending one. I think you got to send her all 4, and then you might as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Originally, they were supposed to put 4 in Arcade1Up for the stream. Like, that was supposed to be the thing to show it off. And then probably what would have happened is some people, if they were creators, they probably would have walked away with. I mean, I'm guessing John would have given them, because we can have 4 Ridge Racers or 4 Fast and Furious there. Probably not, but that was the original idea. And Constant, no, you cannot play it online. We kind of talked about the technical aspects of why you can't play it online earlier, but there are online leaderboards, which the other good news is, because it's Gemini leaderboards, that means it'll work with your app to be able to scan in and do all those cool things.
So a couple other people made assumptions based on the fact that there were no FCC filings for the cabinet, me being one of them, that this wasn't going to have Wi-Fi. Do you know anything about the details about that, Travis?
So the one thing I have heard in talking, being in different conversations with Arcade1Up, is that they are really, they understand that you guys are really good at finding a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And they do these different things to try to keep it from popping too early sometimes. So it's whack-a-mole, man. And this is like this in other niches too, like in my niche where the Apple leaks and stuff, and they try to whack-a-mole the things. As you guys find ways of figuring it out, they try to find other ways of making it so you don't. Because remember when you used to be able to see like entire pictures and everything on FCC, of like the actual whole cabinet and everything before it was released, and now you can't anymore. So it's whack-a-mole.
So who's the first sucker that will buy 2? Pitbull says. I think Cornercade already bought 2. Cornercade, are you familiar with Cornercade?
Yeah.
Really, really big fan of Arcade1Up. He was
first
person on the show this morning. He was like, I ordered, guys. Did anybody else order? By the way, I pre-ordered.
yeah. He's excited, which is cool. Yeah, super cool. I saw someone else real quick. Just wanted to answer. Why didn't they show linkable play? Well, so that's Shinobi, legitimately because they couldn't get multiple. There was a whole conversation I had with John D that literally I was like, I don't think I should be having this conversation because someone's going to jail and it won't be me. So I don't want to hear about this anymore. Trying to make sure they could get 4 cabinets in time. I don't want to know nothing about this, so leave me alone.
Yeah, Arcade1Up have alluded to this a couple times, and I think from the outside, we always expect companies to have a certain size, have all this ability to do all these things, when you don't really know the size of the company or their capacity to do things. So, I mean, that's a good example of it right there. Like, most people would say, if you're going to release a linkable cab, why didn't you just have 4 of them ready? Why didn't you have this? Why didn't you have that? I mean, they did what they could, right?
Yeah. The more that I learn about Arcade1Up, the more I understand that, like, in a lot of ways, it's still kind of like a startup company. Like, there's a lot of that scrappiness and stuff. And there's a lot of things going on, and just, it seems, but there's a lot of mistakes that are being made. And I just think, so let's talk about the one thing that at first super upset about, but as I've seen more and more footage, I'm less upset about, which is the 30 frames per second. So for me, this was something that actually upset. When I first found out about it, I was so upset about it that not only was I like, well, I'm glad I'm not going to be on the live stream anyway, because I would be too upset about it. Like, I would, and one of the conversations that was had was like, you've got to like mention that it's 30 frames per second. Like, you've got to talk about that, because it's not on the detail page. It's not on like a Spy's page. Like, you have to. So the reason that actually was said on stream was because of me. And I'm not trying to be like, pat myself on the back, but the community deserved to know that. Now, at the end of the day, when in watching the footage, it actually looks good. And again, if you've played cruising, you've played a 30 frames per second racer already. And actually that barely kept 30. Like sometimes it was all over the place. So you've already played it. If you already understand, you're good to go. But for me, the problem I had was they did things right. They got Raw Thrills to do a port, which is the best way to optimize a game for hardware. But whatever hardware they gave them obviously was not powerful enough to do it. It wasn't powerful enough to do online, which was kind of like, I was annoyed by that, but okay. But this kind of upset me a lot. And I was incredibly frustrated because for me, it goes back to the comment I made back in the very first One Update show where I talked about the Pro Cab not having, like Arcade1Up not having enough detail-oriented kind of, they're just not detail-oriented enough to do Pro Cabs. Here we are again. This time now you're releasing a game that you're never, I mean, could they get arcade perfect? I mean, there's a couple back here behind me that are damn close. Killer Instinct is freaking fantastic. So can they do it? Yes. This was the first time I think that I can think of where the actual performance of the game is substantially lower than the arcade itself. Like it's half the frame rate. That's a big freaking deal. So I was really frustrated by that. I think it's a slippery slope. It just immediately goes back to lack of attention to detail. And I'm not happy with that personally.
I'm always the kind of person that I'll try to understand why. Is there another reason why that's not on the surface? So for example, with the linkable cabs, was the 30 frames per second a necessity to make sure that the linkable multiplayer experience was at the highest level? Like, could they have pushed to 60 with the chipset, but once you switched over to the, linkable multiplayer, would that have dipped? So they decided to just leave it at 30.
It's a good question. My guess is no. My guess is if that was the case, they would have just done that. And the reason I say that is because I think they know that some people will get linkable cabs, but they have to know 90% of these that are sold are never going to be linked. They have to know that, right? It's not, so you're optimizing for a very small amount of people. So I don't think that's what happened. What I think happened is that whatever chipset this is using, and I'm not sure which one it was, it should have been a better one. Now, here's the interesting thing. So At Games, as you know, has the 4K versions of everything coming out, which I already told PK, listen, you need to send me one. I'm going to do a video about it and everything. Like, I'm literally going to put a video game thing on my channel because I think it's amazing. That chipset's super powerful. It's substantially more powerful than the most powerful chipset that Arcade1Up is currently using. And that means that Arcade1Up can start purchasing that in the future for future systems, which means we won't run into this maybe ever again. Hopefully, because it's very powerful. Yeah. If you get the right thing. Now, here's the thing. The reason why they ran into so many problems with MVC2 is because that is an emulated game based off of like Fight game. Yeah. It, like, to me, it gives me a headache to talk about this because again, there's a lot of things that Arcade1Up does that I just don't agree with. I know that there's a lot of things I don't know about how that process ended up there. And I'm sure that had to do with saving money because you could have gone to a lot of people. You could have gone to a lot of people who would have got it done right. But you went with an emulated thing on one of the biggest titles they've ever released, which was a mistake, right? It ended up being a mistake. They should have gone with a port and worked with a company that could have done it in a way that would have done it, even though it's not bad. There's still some, by the way, being fixed. So there's patches already that are being tested. So being fixed. But the stuff like that really kind of bothers me. So they did the right thing this time by going to the actual maker of the game and saying, hey, make our version. They will do that again for future games. And I don't think I'm spilling anything. If you look at some of the things they've done in the past, they have a relationship with certain companies for certain games that they know who they're probably going to use in the future for future games. All my Tekken fans out there, I think we're going to be okay. I'm on the bumper every day about Tekken, don't you know? I'm telling you. But yeah, and listen, can we talk about Code Mystics for a second?
Oh yeah.
I love, if you are an Arcade1Up fan at all, you need to love Code Mystics, not just because of the work they did on KI. And I have to be very careful with what I say here. Needless to say, they have gone
above and beyond.
They've gone above and beyond for products that aren't theirs. And I'm just going to leave it at that because they don't want to be acknowledged for that. They love the community so much. I've never dealt with devs or a company that is so passionate about the actual players. I would even argue to say that Code Mystics as a company is more passionate about the gamers than Arcade1Up as the company. There are people within Arcade1Up that are, like John D, definitely passionate about the
100%.
But if you take every single person in Code Mystics that I've ever talked to, and then every single person in Arcade1Up, I think you're going to find more passion than Code Mystics. Some of the things they've done behind the scenes would break your brain. They are amazing. Show them love whenever you can.
So there was a comment from OTG on Twitter there the other day that I had quite the chuckle over, because he was talking about the update to the Killer Instinct Pro Cab, and he was like, "I don't even consider this an Arcade1Up product anymore. This is the Code Mystics Killer Instinct Pro Cab."
So true, so true. They're magical people. Magical people. That's all I'm going to say. I'm gonna leave it at that. They don't like to. They don't, and that's the thing. They don't do this for like to be acknowledged or anything. They're not about that, and they're very like secretive. And if I could go up, and I could, they're in Vancouver, not far from me. I'd go up and hug all of them. I would. They're amazing, absolutely amazing people.
So JJ asks, "What's with the ads in the middle of your live stream, Michael B. the Game Genie?" JJ, if I could come to your house while you were sleeping in the night and put ads in your head, I would.
He's paying me. That's you had to pay me to be here.
No. That's the new thing with YouTube, and I'll tell you right now. Whenever YouTube inserts some kind of monetization into the videos, I just do it because I assume that they're gonna share my video because I did it. It's a partnership. I just assume.
I don't blame you. Yeah, what else you got questions on? Let's keep it going.
Oh, I actually got a lot of questions, and I hope none of these are uncomfortable.
No,
we got a $2 super chat from Stringer Films first. I'm feeling crass, but also curious about all this. The crass and the curious. Thank you very much, Stringer Films. So the first question I want to ask you is, there was that one update just last week where they announced the Infinity Game Board. And I was a little critical of that show because I felt like maybe the two shows had a bit of an identity crisis. Arcade1 Update, it's been a show I've been a very big fan of. I like what you and David McIntosh have done so far. The connection with the community, answering questions. But really, I asked the question, should that have been an episode of Arcade1 Update, or should that have been an episode of That One Up Show? Because that was a product reveal. And while they did have... I don't know if her name is Emily or I think it's Emily, right?
Emily, yep.
Emily, why they did have her there, it's not like she was there answering a pile of technical questions and there was no interaction with the community. So should that have been more an episode of That One Up Show than Arcade1 Update? And I would be concerned about confusing the two different shows and the two different brands.
Well, you'll notice I wasn't there.
Travis was like, "I'm not taking part in this."
But I had the exact same concern as you, and John and I have gone back and forth on this. I think we have agreed to disagree on some aspects of this. I didn't think it needed a show, and if it did, I thought it would make more sense for one update. But I think what one update really is for actual, and this is the weird thing. This is where it gets kind of dicey, and I lean more with you on this, but here's the kind of the lines, if it makes sense. One update is for new game announcements, period.
Okay.
Everything else, sorry, did I say one update? One up show.
That One Up Show, yeah.
Game announcements, period. They haven't been announced previously. So you'll notice in the update show, we've done Deluxe caps, but they were already announced. So we did updates on that. And this was an update on IGB, which had already been announced. So there was a precedence of this before. What I didn't like about it at the time, and that isn't the reason why I wasn't there, but was that I would have wanted more conversation. It just didn't make any sense to do, it didn't make any sense to make that a live stream. I think we all agreed with that. Secondarily, like, 100% sure if we made that a Q&A community stream, IGB would have been so far behind, like it would have been 30 seconds of IGB and then everything else would have come. It would have been a shit show. Let's be honest, like, right?
Where's Time Crisis?
Exactly. Like it would have never been anything about IGB. So I was like, look, you might as well make this this is the one time where they went with me and I'm like, you should do a produced video. Like, yeah. And I'm like, good. Okay. You did what I said I told they should have done it for the fast viewers. But anyway, I agree with you. I think we have to be very careful with that, and that, I at times am at odds with some of the things that are decided, but as long as I get the community involvement in the shows that I'm a part of, then I'm usually okay with it. Which you'll notice, any of the ones that don't necessarily have that, I'm not in.
Yeah.
Everyone I've been in, there's been some questions answered. Sometimes not a whole bunch, but there's always something. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what was lacking from the last two live streams that they've done. It was the community engagement, and that's kind of falls apart right there. So I appreciate you saying that. So, yeah, I don't really I don't really have much more than that. There was that. Oh, there was also the question of, like you just said, when you're marketing a product, like with the two shows, people are mainly here for the arcade. So you said it right. If they did Infinity Game Board, if
It
they
would have been.
did it would have been slaughtered. So
Yeah.
why do a show in that format anyways? Because is Infinity Game Board an Arcade1Up product? Because if you remember when the Infinity Game Table came out, it was almost launched as a separate brand. So is the Infinity Game Board an Arcade1Up product? Should it be marketed under the same media and the same medium
My
as
my
your
my
Arcade1Up products?
It's such a good question because I kind of was when we were talking when I was talking to John about like the show for that, I said I think you should just do a produced video, and then just put it out. Don't even bother with like a premiere or anything. And but he wanted some of the engagement with the premiere, and that's fine. That's cool. Okay, again, your channel. I'm just telling you my thoughts. And again, I agree with you. Like the things that you're saying and thinking are probably every single thing I said and thought at the at the time. I'm legitimately and again, I like, but I'm starting to get tired of it. I like the fact that I'm not being compensated by Arcade1Up because I can be 100% honest and to the point and be like, this is bullshit. But I'm also getting kind of tired of it because I'm doing a lot of extra work. And while the community is starting to finally come around on me a little bit, I think I'm kind of like, I was only here for a little, I only ever wanted to be here to force Arcade1Up to start talking to the community again. And they started to do it, which is great. Like it's working. And I'm ready to start to slowly fall back. But of course, John knows that as long as Tekken isn't out, I might still be around. As soon as Tekken's out, I'm out. Out. Maybe, we'll see.
Yeah, so that was another thing I really wanted to talk to you about because I feel like a lot of people in the community have these concepts about people who work with Arcade1Up or do things with Arcade1Up. First off, about you, some history about you that people might not know. You've been a fan of Arcade1Up since day one. You did a very early Pac-Man, the original release Pac-Man review video.
2018.
So you've been covering this, even though, your channel mainly covers. I saw a video earlier, you eating every item from McDonald's. So, I guess some of the weird stuff from the community, they were like, why Travis? Because
Right.
there's almost like this community where people expect people only to make Arcade1Up videos. Like people always say you're an Arcade1Up channel or you're a home arcade channel to me. And I'm like, I might make a video tomorrow on an Xbox controller. It'll do really
Which,
poorly.
by the way, I watched. I loved it.
Thank
I
you.
I'm like, I watched it all the way through.
Yeah, look, it's a neat controller, right?
Yeah, I have like 4 of those, and I have different color ones. So I had
I'm hooked on them. But like what I say is my channel's about me. I'll just do whatever I want. And like you have a channel that you're more known in the tech sector, but you've been a part of this community for years. And what people don't know, and I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this, I'll probably get kicked out of this group eventually. You're also heavily involved with the beta tester program as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, pardon?
But yeah, I've talked about being a part of that. 100%.
Okay. I'm always a little weary of because it's a weird place to be in the beta tester program and also be on YouTube because I don't really want to know most of the stuff because if I'm going to do a video about speculation, I don't want to know. So sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to go in that Discord chat for a while.
And it's smart because you're exactly right. If I had, and this is one of the reasons why when I talked to John that it made the most sense for me to come in is because I do have a background in arcades. I used to work at 2 of the biggest arcades in Seattle. I've been an Arcade1Up and At Games customer since 2018, 2019. So I've been around. And I don't have to have the conflict of interest. There's no conflict of interest for me to be here and to know the stuff I know. Because here's the thing, to Michael's point, and this is so true. If you knew the things that maybe I knew or people that are going, it's hard as a human being to not accidentally say something during your speculation videos or whatever. And then of course people will go, well, you knew all the time. You knew like UAG knows stuff and pretends like he doesn't know stuff. But it's different for like people who really genuinely want to, like there was a time, and you'll remember this, I DM'd you.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was end of last year or this year. I was like, so what's this thing about this Fast and Furious? I was saying like, I didn't know what the hell was on. What's this Fast and the Furious thing? At this point I knew. And you'll remember this was a long time ago. I asked you about this because you did a video or a live stream about Fast and Furious, and it hadn't even leaked. This was way before that, and I was like, "So what do you know? Was that a game?" Like I played all the things just to see if you knew, and I was like, "What do you know?" And you're like, "I don't know anything." So I totally get it. Like 100%, you're 100% right, man.
You've asked me a couple times, actually. You were like, so what makes you think they'll come out with a Mortal Kombat 2 Deluxe cab? What makes you think that? And I'm like, well, they're going to come out with another one of these cabs next year. It's going to have a different skin on it.
Now, like a couple of weeks later, and I'm like, how does this motherfather know? And he's like, no, I'm like, this guy's right. But then you got some stuff so totally wrong recently that I'm like, oh no, he's legit. He's legit because he got this stuff way wrong.
I don't want to know. Like there's sometimes I've known, like people have given me information, and honestly, it ruins the experience for me because then I'm not surprised. Like, and then you've got to, I don't like pretending I don't know. So I'll be on YouTube and I'm just like, I can't talk about this because I know.
Yeah.
And then people are like, well, just tell us, stop being an idiot. And I'm like, no, it's not how this works.
Plausible deniability, my friend. Yeah, you're doing it right. You're playing it right. And I think that, and by the way, like the problem with this is that if you know stuff, things change.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that things have changed over the course of almost all of these games from the time they were, caught them up with to the time they hit the thing, that if you start leaking stuff early, you're going to look dumb. Because it doesn't stay. Some things don't stay the same way. So
can you imagine if someone made a video saying that Shaq was going to announce NFL Blitz?
The funny thing is, when they first said there was going to be a Shaq event, I'm like, this is no lie. I literally did this and put this in a live stream. I go, they're like, what game is going to be? It's going to be Blitz. And I was really excited for Blitz. I Googled what is Shaq's favorite video game, arcade game. Literally, there was an interview of him a month earlier going, I love NBA Jam. I go, oh, it's going to be NBA Jam. I literally put that in the live stream chat. I go, it's on. He just recently said this. This is what it's going to be. And I was like, NFL Blitz. And there's Michael going, it's going to be NFL.
Well, listen, here's my thought process on this. Okay. So John D and Cyrus did this huge, 4-hour stream during the halftime of the Super Bowl on 1UP Weekly, talking about NFL Blitz. So we knew NFL Blitz was coming. Then all of a sudden they're having an announcement, Super Bowl weekend at Shaq's Super Bowl party. I'm like, well, it's got to be Blitz. I know that it was Shaq, but the weekend, right?
Yeah, it was so funny because it was so like the moment when they were like, and it's Shaq. I remember just looking like, let me see all these YouTubers, see what they're saying.
Oh, I was so sad.
I wanted to see. You need to have a cam whenever these things happen, so that you're like, okay, and here's the. Oh.
It was sad because we had early footage because B was there, right? At the
event.
He was going around with the camera, and then all of a sudden, they're showing the cabs under the blankets. I saw an NBA Jam stool, and I was like, oh, that's not a good song.
And then NFL Blitz just kind of came out of nowhere. Like, here's NFL Blitz.
Well, it didn't come out of nowhere. Again, there was this huge stream where they talked about Eugene Jarvis. They talked about NFL Blitz on 1UP Weekly for all the halftime show. So, I mean, here's the thing about John D. I am at the point where I don't think anything he does is unintentional. So today, for example, he shows up with a Rock shirt on. What's one of the other cabs that's rumored to be coming out later this year? And you can't say anything because but one of the other cabs rumored to come out is WrestleFest. So John shows up on the show today with a wrestling shirt. Is it a coincidence? Is it not? I don't know.
I'm going to give you a little piece of information that I will say that if you ever watch a John D interview, you'll know something. He will typically, if someone goes like, what about this game possible? And he goes, oh yeah, maybe this, that, and the other. It's probably not being worked on. If he goes, never will happen, it's probably being worked on. He did it with MVC. He did it with Blitz. No way it's impossible. The more he says something is impossible, the closer it is to release. I want you to go back and look at old streams about Blitz and MVC and look how absolute impossible it's never going to happen in live stream chats, he would say. And then a couple months later there. But if they're kind of possible, they're not even being worked on.
Yeah. And the other thing that I found out about John was he likes a challenge. He really likes a challenge. So if people in the community, here's the thing, if you want to put a fire under John's ass to get a game going, You don't have to ask for it. Asking for it won't happen. Saying he can't do it is the trick. Saying there's no way you can get Qbert. Qbert is ungettable. You watch how quick that comes out.
They can get Qbert. That, from what I
No,
understand,
no, they can't. It's impossible.
I know, right? Yeah, they can't. They can't. It's impossible. But I just think that I don't know how. I think they have to take the temperature of it. I still think they should go back to. So I can't remember who said this. I think it was a really good point. But I'd always said, if you really want to know how much interest something is, do it like a Kickstarter for it. And then if enough people would, just do it. But then someone said, well, but then that doesn't necessarily look good to the licensee and licensor and stuff. And that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, it's a tough place, because I remember getting really excited when Liv first came on with Arcade1Up, seeing her history, how she was coming from Hasbro, and she worked in that big Hasbro, was it HasLabs or Hasbro Pulse? I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah.
But it was that whole Kickstarter fan funded projects for Hasbro, and I was really hoping Arcade1Up was going to go in that direction. I was like, man, we're going to get some weird shit. We're going to get a wacko cab and everything. But obviously it didn't go in that direction. I still hope that Arcade1Up can do something like that. I think their direct-to-consumer has a lot of potential, but obviously they've got to do it in an interesting way.
Well, the other thing is, so you always have to remember, and what's really nice about this is the pricing on a new IP, which is, this is not a rehash of anything, being at $5.99 is actually really encouraging, especially an IP as popular as one you have to go through Universal. Like, that's actually kind of surprising. A lot of times, in order for them to make it so that it's profitable for making these games, they have to make it a little bit higher, because not only the increased cost of the actual things in the world now, but the licensor wants a specific type of money, a specific amount of money, and you can't do that at a certain price points. So the fact that they were able to get $5.99 with a big title like this is kind of encouraging for future titles.
Yeah, I think some people were scared that the prices were going to go all over the place. Like, there was some rumors about Time Crisis possibly coming out at $7.99 that really scared a couple people. So seeing that $5.99, it's not $4.99, but it's still not too far off. Yeah,
the $4.99 I really think is more for titles they've already made their money on, because they've already paid the licensor and all this. Like, they've made their R&D prices back. Like, this is a new game. They have to get the dev price back, all the money they paid for the devs. The licensor has to make their money. They have to, like, there's this upfront cost they need to recoup right away. So it's going to be a higher price point. Rehashes, if they do rehashes, are the ones that end up being less, because they've already started making their money back. I don't know the answer to this. Marquee and speaker, I don't know what the marquee looks like. I haven't seen it in person. And I think this is a speaker grill question. If the deluxes are any indication, they'll probably have the grill over them, but I really don't know.
Yeah, so I was somewhat ready for this. The cool thing was they actually showed us the cabinet in the videos that came up earlier. And I say I was somewhat ready for this, and then I drop it off the screen. So let me just bring this back up here now. So Travis, entertain people while I try to figure out where this is.
Yeah, I love this, that people are going, all right, these games are impossible. John D said they're impossible, so they're hoping that they're going to come. Listen, Paul, man, you know me, man. The main reason that I'm doing all this stuff with Arcade1Up is because I want Tekken, and it will happen. I think
it's a process for Tekken. If listen, Arcade1Up, if there's something I can do to get you to make a Robotron XL, let me know. Like, I will wash windows. Like,
that actually reminds me. The next time we do a one update, I need to do an update on the 80 Tekken Tag BD, but it'll be Tekken 1 through Tekken Tag, Tekken 1, 2, 3, and Tekken Tag. I need to do, because I heard something and I need to confirm it on one update about that 80s game that's supposed to come out this year. There might be an update on that. So the next time one update comes out, I'll need to get the answer for that.
So I covered this in my video earlier, and you can see it on the gameplay that they shared on one update. And my God, do I still have that video up, or did I somehow lose that as well?
The other one? Yeah, well, the one I sent you also, or the one that John.
No. This is the one they showed during one update earlier today.
Yeah.
So we did get a good look at the marquee. So the marquee isn't the new style marquee; it's the original box marquee, like that's on Ridge Racer. So we did see that. You can see that in the picture here. I'm going to see if I can get a little bit closer here. So as you can see, maybe it is the new marquee, but it looked like the box marquee when I was playing it earlier. So that's as close as it will go. Let me see if I can get closer. No, that's as close as I can go. So that's the marquee.
What do they do in the video that's on there?
Pardon?
Remember they did the video, like the 80s video and stuff, where they kind of zoom in and stuff. There's actually multiple videos on their YouTube channel. If you go to their YouTube channel, they have multiple videos that have different B-roll of the cabs.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't believe you.
I know, right? But you have to go to their YouTube channel.
Oh, I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
We'll be there one day. We'll be there. And then
all right, so we've got Thrill of Fast and the Furious here.
So they showed.
Yeah, so you can see the marquee there. I think that is the original like box marquee, light up marquee they were doing. I don't see speaker grills.
Yeah, I don't see them. If they're anywhere, they'd have to be firing down, like at an angle that you can't see.
So, I mean, that would kind of take away the excitement of having the grills there if you can't even see them under the marquee. But the speaker issue has been long resolved. This ever since Marvel vs. Capcom 2, all the cabinets that came out in this past year all have loud sound, loud bass. That issue that came up with Speaker 8, that's all been resolved. We know about that now.
Yeah. I mean, even the deluxe cabs now are ridiculously like everything is loud now.
Yeah, everything's loud. Like when the Arcade1Up said "get loud," they were talking to themselves about their cabinets. Now it's all loud.
The speakers, get loud on the speakers. Yeah, hard to know what they look like in person though.
Yeah, I don't anticipate there being speaker grills. I think it's the old style box marquee, and I think the sound quality is going to be fine. So, guys, easiest thing to do, if you have a question now in the chat, let's start taking some questions. Throw a queue up before your question so we can pick it up. Make sure we see it.
Put them cues out there. Put them cues out there. Oh, there's super chat.
There we go. Bozo Calvin Jr. says, "Hey, how you doing, Michael B. the Game Genie? Order mines from Best Buy. Arrives on 5/8. Got an employee discount, $100 off. So ready for this. Sweet, man. Congratulations.
Hey now.
Thank you very much.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, listen, do a review. Put it on YouTube.
80s for the win. I've been saying this a long time. Like Arcade1Up, I know they want to go mainstream and different things like that to try to get as many people possible eyes on the brand. But man, there's so many good 80s games that haven't been done or haven't been done as a marquee cab. I'm excited they're doing an 80s game this year. I'm hoping the 80s game isn't WrestleFest because WrestleFest just snuck in there in 89. I'm hoping it's an 80s game.
No, it's an 80s game.
Okay, that's perfect.
Yeah.
When will these be half price? We covered that.
When Best Buy decides that's the case,
No, that's not what I want to do. I didn't want to start. I wanted to show it. Will we get a light gun cab this year?
I believe so.
Yeah, I mean, that's been Arcade1Up's modus operandi for the last couple of years. We get one driving cab, one light gun cab. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious it's going to be Time Crisis. But like Travis said, things can change. A little while ago, I told everybody they were coming out with. I told everybody they were coming out with a track and field cab. It never happened. Oh, multi-cabinet discount possibility from Carlo.
I talked to John about this initially, and they're kind of. I mean, again, you have to remember at the beginning, like they're trying to get as much money as they can. However, I do think I might have worked a deal where there might be something special for the first person that posts having two connected. Now, I don't know what that would be, but John is up for that. When I talked to him, I said, hey, if someone posts on social media or a video that they actually got two and they're wired and they actually bought two, could we do something cool for them? And he was like, oh, I like that idea. There's nothing specific yet, but I think if someone does that and you post it or whatever, send it in, I think we're going to try to I'm going to push for something. I don't know what the hell it's going to be, but we're going to get something cool done for you.
So I think Arcade1Up, to improve their direct consumer, should come up with this novel idea never been done before. It's called a Subway Sub Club card, where you collect stamps every time you buy an Arcade1Up through Consumer Direct.
And the 8th one is free. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Travis, I don't think you're going to be able to answer this question, obviously, but to the best of your knowledge, Travis, how many new licenses are left to come this year?
Here's what I will say. The number has changed, I think, in the last couple of weeks. So I can't say how many, but in the one update show, the next one update we show we'll ask about that 80s title and find out what the latest is on that. And that's it's not a lot though. There's not a lot of new IPs. It's a lot of like rehashes and stuff.
Rehashes are fine.
Yeah, Deluxe.
as long as they're
when I
done
think
right.
like Deluxes and stuff. There is something coming. Sometimes you miss out on a cabinet. I missed out on a cabinet that I really wanted, and I think I might get another shot at it. I'm kind of excited about it. Anyway, move on. Move on.
Okay. I keep staring things. I just mean to show. I usually just use OBS. I don't do these program shows. Give us a hint on a new title coming out, like that one you were just talking about.
Listen, if you've seen leaks from last year, I mean, you know at least one of them, right?
Yeah. Okay. So this is a great question. This is 19K Fox did a show recently where we talked about Time Crisis. Now, Time Crisis, the rumor I've always heard with Time Crisis is, I'm just going to say it, is that Time Crisis is going to be a one-player cabinet. Game list is going to be Time Crisis 1 and only Time Crisis 1, Steel Gunner 1 and 2, and Point Blank 1 and 2. But what 19K Fox started talking about was that Arcade1Up delayed this, and I'm not asking you to confirm this. Arcade1Up delayed Time Crisis. Part of the reason why was because they were looking into some split screen technology. And on his video, and when I was looking at it too, I was like, split screen on a 4x3 screen. I don't know if that's such a hot idea. So now I built this connection that, hey, if they're going to develop link technology for racing cabs, instead of split screen, could they possibly link Time Crisis if they wanted to do a split screen figure? So do you think this linking technology will be seen in more than just racing cabs going forward?
Okay, so we need to step back in order to answer this question, because while I think we may see linked to get games in the future, probably more racing games is my guess, this technology was made by Raw Thrills for Raw Thrills' game.
Okay.
It's not like they can take this information from that game and now put it onto something else. It's not the way it works. And you have to remember, Arcade1Up is not the developer of any of these games. They work with developers. So the developer of Raw Thrills came up with this technology to work on their game. So
Gotcha.
Would there be more with linked? Sure. And that may even be the case for other driving cabs whenever those come out. But it has nothing to do with the fact that they were able to do it this time. I think the thing is that people have made the connection for things like this when John, in a year or so ago, like, we're almost at the point where we can do, this particular type of technology. But the reality is all the technology is possible. The devs out there can do it. You got to pay them. Like, Mystics could probably do everything if they really, if they would pay them, but they're really expensive. So it's not a matter of, they finally got the technology down. The developers can do all this stuff. It's just, does it fit into the budget and what Arcade1Up's trying to accomplish?
Okay. All right. Let me see. I don't want to miss anything. Guys, don't forget, if you got a question, throw a Q up there first, because if not, I think we already answered this, but I'll ask this one again. Bozo Calvin Jr., what are your thoughts on the link connection?
It's cool. I mean, it's cool. If are you gonna buy two, Bozo, or are you just doing the one and then waiting for a sale? Or do you have room for the other thing? Is, do people have room for two? Like, that's the other thing.
Between 1 and 2, 1 and 5, 1 in a million.
Is that in reference to how many new ones?
I think so. That's always going to be the question people ask.
Isn't between 1 and 2 1.5? Is that one of the few numbers? So 1.5? I don't know. Like, no,
I didn't even think about this, but we got a super chat here from Decade Slippers. So glad I can now add a subwoofer to KI Pro via HDMI fixed.
So I've had a sub on my KI Pro for the longest time before the KI HDMI fixed, but it is nice now that audio works. And the thing is, to be very clear, while the fix came from Code Mystics didn't break it. Yeah. So this is a really weird situation where Code Mystics once again fixed something that wasn't there. Anyway, Code Mystics is the best. Just leave it at that. Code Mystics is the best.
Console Fanboy, now with a K, to rebrand his channel to Mortal Kombat. $4.99 super chat. Any chance of reskins for MK2 Deluxe like they did last year with MK30 and Joust? Maybe an MK1 Deluxe reskin.
Fortunately, I don't have direct knowledge of anything, so I can completely speculate that next year we will see, and this is something that I think you would probably even say, we'll see a reskin of something, but it'll probably be an XL. I believe the next MK will be an XL, I think, next year. I don't know which one it'll be for MK1, MK2. I don't know.
Thank you very much, Zohar. I think that really depends not so much on Arcade1Up. That depends on a retailer stepping in. Like, from what I understand, those reskins last year of Joust and Dig Dug, I believe, that was specific for Shop Hippo.
Shop
Shop
Hippo has a
Hippo
lot
wanted
of
something
pull with
interesting.
Arcade1Up.
Yeah.
If you want something like legitimately, do like beg Shop Hippo, because apparently they have a lot of pull with Arcade1Up.
As seen on TV, apparently Shop Hippo used to be.
Yeah.
Are we getting a Pro or XL cabinet this year? That's a question I want to ask. I'm in love with the Pro and the XL line. It's what I think Arcade1Up always should have been.
I hope so. So I think the answer is shifting. I think it's ever shifting. I think if this question was asked and Arcade1Up answered it 2 months ago, the answer is different than it is right now. So let's get on Arcade1Up update. Let's ask David McIntosh and John and them, and let's just ask them, because my information would have been old. I don't even know if it's accurate anymore.
Why do they still use incorrect cab pics on the website?
Did they do it again?
I don't know if they did it again. Fast and Furious looks pretty accurate, but there's some pics up there. Like after you guys did your show where David talked about, we're working on this.
Yeah.
I brought up one that was like a brand new product. And I was like, it's still on the picture. I can't remember now. That was weeks ago, man.
Listen, I want to dunk on them every time I can on that show. So if you have, if the show goes live and there's another one still like that, tell me and I'll dunk on them in the show. I'll say, listen, why isn't it still? That's the part of, that's why I'm there, is to hold them accountable and be like, what are you doing?
Oh, here's one that I'm actually surprised isn't something that they ran to, because I looked at the first games they released in the XL lineup and immediately it's stuck out to me like a sore thumb. These are games that are not necessarily arcade games. Not saying they're not arcade games, but growing up in my vintage, you would see NBA Jam and you would see Golden Tee, not just in arcades, but you'd also see them in bars. They were popular bar games and like pool hall games. So I was thinking smart to go with those for the first XL games, because a lot of people have rumpus rooms downstairs, like home bars, home pool rooms, and they're going to want the same arcades they have from that. So when I think about the arcades that Arcade1Up have released that really fit into that category, dorm rooms, all that stuff, Golden Tee, NBA Jam to a lesser extent, but then right next to it, if you think about any bar or pool hall with an arcade cabinet, there's probably a big buck hunter here. That's how most people probably pay big buck. So, to me, the next logical step for Arcade1Up in the XL line was do a big buck XL.
So I think the best way to understand if something's going to hit an XL or Deluxe or Pro is if it is released previously and sold out without very many sales. There's a good chance of it happening, unless for some reason the license goes up. I don't know what Buck Hunter did. Was Buck Hunter able to sell out without going through a whole bunch of sales, or no?
Buck Hunter's never been on sale, not really on sale, but it's also been one of the ones that is seems to be a continual, like Golden Tee. There seems to be a continual line of orders from companies. Like they keep ordering it. Like I mean, we're into year 3 with Buck Hunter. I've never really seen it go on sale, except for the one I got that was a fluke. But I've never seen it really go on sale, but retailers still have them in stock. I don't know if that's a sign of it maybe not selling as well, or maybe it's just a big run and people keep asking for more.
That's a good question. Like, I don't know how many they made initially. It's a great question. I think we should bring it up on one update. I think it's a great question because no one's asking about it. But the fact is, I think you're right. Like the times that I've seen it go up, it's like there was a reorder a couple months ago that I think you get through Best Buy, and I think they're gone already. So either they're just trickling them out, or they're really more popular than we really give it credit for.
And if they release it in XL, dear God, put a light up marquee on it. What a missed opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So this is a question I can't answer at all. When will Arcade1Up start using OpenAI or some other algorithm to predict which cab will sell best? Because I think some people in the community look at some of the releases sometimes and like, are they just throwing darts, or how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, well, again, I think we talked about Fast and Furious because it does seem out as a left field until you realize there's a big ass movie coming out. So I think that probably had some kind of impact in it. I don't know if it was the needle mover or not. I think obviously it should have been. If it wasn't, then they got lucky. But yeah, I mean, listen, they want everything out that you guys want out because they want people to buy stuff.
The prob I wanted to use KI Pro on board Spark 2, $2 super chat from DK Slippers. Do you know what that is, Travis?
No idea. But cool.
You don't have to super chat again, but DK Slippers, if you can break that down, say it to me like I was 5.
Explain it to me like I was 5.
Okay, this is one that I think I know the answer to, but I'm hoping I'm wrong. So this is a great one for Arcade1 Update. I don't know if this is something you can. There's a lot of people, even though from what I understand, Dragon's Lair was a relatively low production run. I don't know how much money's left in the budget to do work with it, but there were a lot of people really upset that there was this audio sync issue later in the game. I'm not good enough to get to the point where there's an audio sync issue, so I've never experienced it, but it is something that was some kind of oversight that a lot of people want Arcade1Up to look at. They just went back and they did a audio. I don't know if they did the audio sync fix on T2, but one of the things I was really happy about, they took away the softening filter. So I was thrilled that they did that. Is there any chance that there's updates in the work for, that's the best way to answer this because you probably can't answer directly. Is there any chance there's updates in the work for older games? And is it more likely those older games would have a Wi-Fi connection than a title like Dragon's Lair that doesn't have a Wi-Fi connection?
Yeah, that's actually that's probably even a better way of putting it. So I can tell you without a shadow of doubt, like I'm in the middle of beta testing multiple games that have Wi-Fi with updates that range from kind of like little fixes to like that needed to be fixed for a long time. And for the Dragon's Lair thing, I know that it's that, and I know something about T2 that wasn't the thing. There's something else that people say about it. Is it just what was the other issue with T2?
There was audio glitches later on in the game. Retro Ralph pointed out a bunch because Retro Ralph, huge Terminator 2 fan, has the original arcade, so he was really surprised that the ROM came out with the glitches that it did in the audio department.
Yeah, so what I would say is this. One of the fixes that is currently being tested for one of the games that I'm testing was, people had talked about it being an issue. I had to show a video of it and show exactly what the issue was before really it kind of got fixed, and it's actually being tested and it looks like it's been fixed. So my suggestion is, because people keep talking about this audio glitch and audio glitch, if you can do a video where you show the glitch and then show next to it, like you just find a video on YouTube with that same part where it's not glitched, and then like either tweet it to me or something, it's easy for me to go, this is the problem. That's what I had to do for this one particular thing. I had to go, this is the problem, look at it. Now it's fixed. So if you want stuff like this fixed, especially for like Dragon's Lair, which is harder because it's not Wi-Fi, it's not impossible. They've obviously done it with other games like Pac-Man's and stuff where you take a USB or whatever. It's not impossible to do. Someone needs to be able to get the right people the right information. And I can't go to the people in QA and go, there's a problem with Dragon's Lair audio glitch. Okay, well, where is it? What does it look like? I don't know. So if you give me a video of it, I can get it to the right people. And then we'll see what happens.
Will Outrun ever be back?
I don't know. I doubt it. I don't think so.
I don't know if Outrun did so well.
I don't think it did that well.
I think
Ridge Racer now. I feel FOMO for Ridge Racer all of a sudden.
Yeah. I don't think Outrun did so well, but I don't think it's Outrun's fault or the title's fault. I think it was a misstep by Arcade1Up assuming that a sit-down racer that's so low to the ground with that little bench would do as well as it did. And they didn't produce enough stand-up cabinets to really meet the proper demand for what Outrun was. Outrun stand-up was a very limited release comparatively.
Yeah, exactly right. Oh, I see.
All right.
There's some good questions here.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to them all. I'm trying to catch up. More sports cabs coming?
That are not rehashes? I'm not aware of any.
Yeah, everybody keeps coming up with this dream of this Showtime cab, which is Blitz and NBA Showtime or whatever it is. Super Sports cab, like that would be so hard to do.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think anything that splits the two things, I don't think it's going to happen.
Do you think we'll get, I have an accent, so this is going to be bad, Atari cab this year?
What's in the Atari cab? Like what would be in that?
It's the same as last year they did the Centipede Legacy cab. So the year
Just
before
a
they did the
remake of that?
Tempest Legacy. Yeah.
Oh, possibly. I don't
Yeah.
know specifically, but it's totally possible.
And will it look just like Missile Command?
I don't know. I actually don't know. So that's
No, there's a story behind that. A little while ago, Moat had a personal post up, and it was like, share like your second picture or your first picture on your phone without any explanation and stuff like that. So everybody was sharing random pictures to like cheer Moat up. John D put a picture of a Missile Command cab up there. And I was like,
you son of a.
Yeah.
Jack of all trades. I think that this might be the case. I think that's what they're aiming for. I think that next year we'll see a lot more XL cabs. And I sincerely hope that's the case.
So I think David McIntosh got caught a little while ago saying that like 2022 is the year of the XL cab. Then it was 2023 is the year of the XL cab. So
yeah,
2024.
So here's the thing. If the world doesn't blow up between now and then and we're not taken over by AI and everyone runs out of money, then maybe. We'll see. Simpson X-Men lets you play the Japanese version. Yeah, that's definitely not happening. Definitely not happening.
Okay.
Not that it's not a good idea, but I
think you answered this question earlier. The technology is not so much Arcade1Ups so much as it is raw thrills, right?
Yeah, well, so now, but it's just saying, can these other games be released? So with the new chipset that At Games is using, which Arcade1Up will have access to, I believe that all of this is possible, 100%. Now, they have to get the right dev to do it, and they have to give them enough time and enough money, but I believe 100% these games could be done on the newest chipset that just came out.
Retro Lab Rat, I can answer this question. What's the average time for you guys playing a beta to a cab's actual release?
It depends. So sometimes it's very fast. There's one patch that I just played around with. I hope it comes out very soon because it's for me, it's needle moving for that cab. It's really a needle mover in my opinion for that cab. So hopefully soon. It also depends if sometimes we'll get a patch and it's no better than the previous patch. So you just got to keep going. Yeah.
DLW plays games. 499 super chat. What is the deal with the latest update on TMNT Turtles in Time cab that removes the attract mode songs from both games?
I wasn't aware of this, but I heard that there was something like this that happened with the deluxe cabs, that like intros were removed or something. I have not heard this about this particular title. Does anyone else have the Turtles in Time cab that can say that this happened to them as well?
Yeah, is this a fluke or is this something
right. That's what I want to know. Yeah. I don't know the answer to that.
When you get bitten by a mosquito, have you ever thought of biting back?
The thing is about mosquitoes is like, what do they do? Like, why? Why do they exist? What are they good for?
Yeah. So here's another issue with Dragon's Lair that I'm sure you guys are aware of, that after you play a single game in Dragon's Lair, when you just, you die and you want to leave that, it doesn't go back to playing the attract mode. It gets stuck on a glitch where it basically just sticks on the coin screen. And I love Dragon's Lair, but I will tell you, like, it's an attraction arcade. Like when it was in my arcade and where it's in my much smaller space now, you want to leave it on. You love having it in the background. You want to play a game, but you're not going to sit there and play, 3 hours straight of Dragon's Lair. You play like 2 or 3 games and you're like, oh, it was so fun. Then you leave it and you want that playing in the background, that familiar track. But once you play it, you actually have to reset the cab by, I think it's like holding down player 2 or going out of the game and going back in to get back to the attract mode. So I guess it's like an ease of access thing where it gets stuck here and just doesn't go back. But I know the answer to that. Small run cab. It doesn't have Wi-Fi, so it's very hard to update, and probably
but it's
not in the
possible.
budget.
Again, if it's a bug, I mean, I've talked to people at Arcade1Up, and they are committed to, for older games, especially this year, to going back to games that have bugs and trying to fix them. So if there's a way to like submit these things in one space, I mean, I would gladly pass that along for sure. Can we expect all future releases? It seems that way, right? I mean, if you look at all the things, it really seems this way. I hope so.
I think a big piece of that can almost guarantee that all the games are going to have Wi-Fi going forward is the companion app. The ability to link to that. I mean, it just makes sense that all the cabs would have Wi-Fi so you can connect with the new companion app.
Yeah. I agree.
Will we ever get a new 80s license?
Yes.
How soon?
Well, that's the question we have to ask on One Update, because we got to figure out, like I said, some things have changed. So we need to ask on One Update.
And I'm going to throw this up there. Other people wouldn't, but why does Travis know so much if he doesn't work for 1UP?
So as part of, and I've explained this to John and some, so I know I don't just talk to John. I talk to a lot of people, which is why I have this kind of breadth of knowledge of what's going on, because I don't just talk to one person. And there's multiple reasons for that. Some of them are coincidental, if I'm really being honest. People like to talk to me, but more so that in order for me to be able to do my job correctly, which is right now being a community advocate and calling BS when I hear BS stuff, is to understand what the hell's going on. So I'll ask questions. I'm being told things that that I need, that I've actually had to answer this question to someone at Arcade1, like, why should we tell you this? I'll tell you why. Because if I don't know exactly what's going on, I don't know A, when to call BS on you guys, and B, when to back you guys up when it's a legitimate issue. They go, no, the community, no, there's actually some stuff going on. So I kind of have to know to do what I'm doing. Well, to be clear, once I'm not doing this live stream anymore, I probably will back off a lot of this, because some of it's interesting. I'll never back off the Tekken thing, but I'll back off everything else. Yeah.
We already JT Games. We already answered this earlier. I think Travis answered it. What happened to Splash?
They're aware. I think an update. By the way, there is going to be some more updates on all the Deluxe cabs for app stuff coming up pretty soon. I think, I don't know exactly when, but ish.
She Lion Gaming, $1.99 US. Has Zohar super chatted yet? Love you guys. One time.
Believe it or not, only once, which is crazy.
Yeah. Is there any chance this year starting a funding campaign?
I love the idea, Nooner.
Yeah.
I really wish they would, but I think, and again, it's been brought up a couple times, that I think licensors wouldn't necessarily go for it.
Yeah, I think there's a risk that goes with doing a Kickstarter for certain titles. Like, say, for example, they wanted to do another run of Burger Time, and they did it through Kickstarter. They're going to do a really cool looking Burger Time cab. What damage does that do to Gmode's property if it doesn't hit the target, right?
Yeah, I think that's what it does come down to. It's unfortunate because we might be able to get some cabs that otherwise we wouldn't get, but maybe that's the problem.
Oh, this is a great question. Will we ever get XL titles that weren't 3/4 scale cabs first?
I think we would get Deluxe titles that aren't 3/4 cab. Well, technically Deluxe are 3/4. I don't think they're going to jump to XL before they do a Deluxe. Which, by the way, here's the funny thing about Deluxes. And some people probably figured this out already. In a lot of ways, they're cheaper and better for Arcade1Up to produce. And a lot of things, we think them as an upgrade, but realistically, it saves Arcade1Up shipping space and costs. Because have you seen the boxes of Deluxes?
Yep.
How small they are? They're freaking small, which means they can fit more on a pallet. They're not as heavy. And that just right there, when you put it on a boat, it doesn't cost as much, and you can put more on it. So it's funny because Deluxes are not the upgrade. They're actually the new normal.
Yeah, I've been waiting for people to say that. It's just it. They are just the new normal. This is just the new form factor they're going with. It's going to be. I know there's some detractors, which I'm really surprised by, because a lot of people are like, I like the risers, and some people are like RGT85. I just want to take the risers off and have them sit on the floor and play them that way.
That's just
weird. Is weird.
Yeah, there will be riserless versions because Walmart and Target and them want cheap console things too. So.
They want that. What is it? Impulse buy. And let's be honest, $4.99, $5.99, not exactly an impulse buy, but maybe $2.99, $3.49. That's more of an impulse.
So we're thinking about Blitz.
I was going to answer this one really quickly. If you have an issue, yes, put in a ticket. There's no reason not to put in a ticket.
You should always put in a ticket, but being able to check me from the menu. I'm trying to think, because I was on a different firmware than what's public, so I don't know if that might be fixed. Anyway, always put in a ticket.
Do you think we'll get new Capcom titles this year, not just rehashes like other Deluxe cabinets?
I don't think so. Personally, I don't think so.
I think this is secretly Realzim is secretly 19K Fox, and it's just asking about Alien versus Predator.
Doesn't Realzim have an actual YouTube channel? I feel like I've seen.
Yeah. I'm just joking, but I know 19K Fox wants that Alien versus Predator, and I keep telling them, man, it's not going to happen because it has to be a one-game cab.
Who made AVP?
Capcom.
Well, you could. There's other beat up beat 'em up Capcoms though, right?
Yeah, but would Disney Fox allow other properties to be on the cab with their property? This is where
Maybe
it gets
like
interesting.
Madden or something.
No, but it's why is Simpsons only 2 games?
Yeah.
It's a Konami game. There's so many other beat 'em ups they could have
Yeah,
thrown
yeah,
on there with them.
yeah. Good
But
point.
it's because Disney Fox didn't want stuff to mix with their property.
Good point. Original, that sounds more like potentially a bug, chaotic PBR. There'll be some updates coming out for, I think there's an update coming out for Blitz at some point. So wait and see if that fixes it. And if not, do a ticket.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that's even a thing.
I'm going to save everybody some time here. So we're going to get a Capcom Deluxe cab at some point, right?
Oh, we have to. I would be shocked.
Yeah. I mean, there's legacy cabs. So like anybody that's waiting, yes, you will get a Street Fighter cab sometime this year. Don't worry, guys.
Yeah, more than likely, I would think. I would think. I don't know.
19K Fox had a great idea. I don't know if this is possible, but he said that, remember that really cool looking legacy cab they had a couple of years ago, the first legacy cab for Street Fighter with the awesome iconic like purple and yellow and like, I don't know what the right term for it is, but they had this really cool looking original Street Fighter cabinet for the legacy cab. Have that, but in more of a deluxe, more Capcom Dynamo form factor.
I like that.
Can you do anything about that?
I don't know if I'm going to see dynamos or anything like that, because you know what it is. Like they have that midway style cab that they're using a lot. I think we'll see what happens. You notice we've never seen another Big Blue release, even though that Big Blue cabinet technically had been used for many different games from Capcom, including MVC2. We never saw an MVC2 Big Blue. So did they give up on that? I don't know.
I love Big Blue. I don't think it's sold as well as they anticipated. The other thing about it, from a physical standpoint, Big Blue is difficult to have in your arcade, especially if you're packed for space, because the control panel sits so much lower than everything else. So depending on where you have the control panel, it affects your range of movement. I actually had to put my Big Blue, before I sold it, on an end with nothing next to it so I could play at the one player with full range of movement. Otherwise, I was cramped up against another cab like that because it sits so much lower than the other control panels.
Yeah.
Do you think there's ever a chance at Area 51?
Probably. But what other games could you put on it? This is the question that this is the answer John D always gives, and it's a really good question. What other games can you put on that cab that are by the same dev and same licensor? If there are multiple and they're good, it's very possible. If it's just Area 51, that's a hard sell for, I think, a lot of people. Because Area 51, when I worked in the arcades, wasn't all that popular. Like, it got played, but it only got played because people were playing Time Crisis and Virtual Cop, and you couldn't get on those games. You had to go over and play Area 51.
Yeah, you played it while you were waiting.
Right. Is there a Assassin's Creed in New Game 3? Yes.
So there is a status.
There is a status.
This status. Would you say it's code yellow, code green?
No, he just asked if there's a status. Yes, there is a status.
Okay. I don't know what that means. That's why I'm
answering the question that was asked, Michael. Is there a status? Yes, there is a status. Absolutely.
Here's one I've answered a couple times. I think I'm right on this one. Thank you for the super chat, Zohar. No more pinball. That's something we haven't heard anything about from Arcade1Up. You guys covered it on the first episode of that one update show, I believe.
Yes. And my understanding is exactly what was said on the show. They still have a bunch that they need to sell. I think they do want to do pinball again, as was kind of said, and to my knowledge, this hasn't changed at all. It's just that the financials don't work out for it at this moment. Plus, if we're being honest, AtGames has a pretty killer product, and they would have to beat. I mean, look at the price point here. I mean, look at the AtGames pinball, and then you come out with a Arcade1Up pinball of any type. You're gonna get what, 3 or 4, maybe 5 boards. You got AtGames just like, oh, just put whatever the hell you want on this thing.
I know.
The same price, and it's like done. So how do you do that? How do you beat it?
So yeah, there's a difference with the AtGames Legends Ultimate is you're missing a lot of the. I'll make this argument. You're missing a lot of the nostalgia with the AtGames Legends Ultimate when it comes to having that control panel, having the look of the cabinet, the marquee, all that stuff. So you can play whatever game you want, but you're just playing the game. You don't get the nostalgia factor that the Arcade1Up cabinet brings you. But with the pinball machine, it's a little bit different because the pinball machine, I've always said, is a really weird product for Arcade1Up because it misses the point of what they're doing with all their other products. Like Attack from Mars, yeah, that's a classic pinball machine that we had in the, that one makes sense. But then when they did Star Wars and Marvel, I understand that it's more marketable. They probably even sold more of them. But, you know, you don't get the same nostalgia for playing pinball because those are virtual pinball games. They were never real pinball games. They don't have the nostalgia of the real pinball machines in the arcade. So with that product, I mean, I'm just as happy playing that on my ALP through a PC as I am on the Arcade1Up. In fact, more happy because obviously the PC is more powerful, it looks better, and it runs a little bit better.
And now with the 4K version, it's kind of a wrap. It's kind of a wrap. At Games this year really came out swinging, and shout out to those guys for really, because they were quiet for the longest time. It was like, whatever happened to those guys? And all of a sudden they were like, here's our big thing. We're going to put it on the table. Now, the thing is, where have they been since? We knew it was going to take a while for that. They've been kind of quiet since then, but as soon as those things come out, man, I'm all over it. I was the first, I emailed PK right now. I was like, listen, I'm going to need that 4K ALU. We need to re-talk again. We need to be friends again.
Yeah. I'm hoping, because I know it'll be a long time coming to Canada. If you have any faith in me at all, that pinball machine, I can do some really good coverage of that, guys. Come on. I think the answer to this one's already been out there, or I don't know if this is something you can talk about. Was the Casino Cade abandoned? No. Apparently it's been renamed. That's what everybody's saying right now.
A lot of issues with it.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of weird little issues they probably didn't anticipate. I don't know where it is at this very moment. We should definitely, on the next one update, ask like how far away, because it should have been released by now.
Yeah.
I think, you know, because the deluxes are out. It should have probably been released by now. So we should ask.
When is the next time we will see a Sega cab?
I guess it depends on what like they think is something that they can make and sell. I don't think it's anytime really soon, but we'll see. Maybe next year. I'm not sure.
So is there a status?
There is a status.
Thank you, console fanboy. You didn't need to do a super chat for it. I would have put it up anyways.
I almost feel like this is a question based on knowledge that he may or may not have.
That's the thing. You never know. You never know what people know.
Some of these things, because let me just say this. Console fanboy always asks about Spectate and that sort of stuff, but he's not asking about Spectate. He's asking about something very specific. So that implies to me that he knows something, which is interesting. So I'll just leave it at that and say it's an interesting question, console fanboy, and it's not the one you normally ask. So I would ask you, why are you asking about this and not Spectate, which is what you normally ask about? So perhaps you already know the answer to this question. Moving on.
All right. I'm going to be selfish now, and I'm going to ask a question.
Yeah.
One of the things that drives me nuts with Arcade1Up, and I think you've already given me the answer to this in this stream, is they're a company that does a lot of things, but consistency is sometimes a very big problem. And like if you look at other game companies and stuff like that, there's something you expect every time they have a machine. You expect almost a duplication of what you get on another machine on that machine. It becomes an expectation. So Spectate mode was one of them. We got Spectate mode for the first time with Marvel vs. Capcom 2, was it? Oh, Marvel vs. Capcom and X-Men vs.
Street Fighter 2, like all that stuff. Yeah.
So we got Spectate mode, and then they started releasing other fighters without Spectate.
Yeah.
And I think that came down to the publishers. Different publishers had different abilities and what they were charged to pay.
Correct.
But why wouldn't that be something Arcade1Up would look at and say, all right, this is what we did. This should be the standard going forward. Whenever we work with another publisher, we have the same expectation.
Okay, let me break this down as much as I can. First of all, I didn't say anything about Spectate coming, so slow down. I don't want that to be the thing. I did not say that's coming. I can tell you that it's definitely being looked into. 100% it is being looked into. Whether or not that comes is a different thing. But the other stuff, anyway. So back to what you're saying. So Street Fighter, all those things, they're done by one kind of dev, right? One thing. They had that baked in. I think when KI was being created or being done by Code Mystics, again, like they've said before, they weren't asked to do it. Over the time, you know, as people got more like, man, why can't we do these things? Why can't they have more Spectate? Code Mystics of their own volition was like, we're going to do it. Now that was dope of them to do. They put in a whole bunch of time. And as one of the first people who ever beta tested that Spectate mode, I spent literal hours hours between the first version you guys saw and this new version that just came out with HDMI out, which by the way wasn't the only fix. We actually did a bunch of testing on the Spectate and multiplayer bugs that had come out from the first version. So we did a whole bunch more testing on this last version. Now that thing exists for Gemini. Now let me explain what Gemini is for people who don't know. Gemini is the software that runs on a lot of these other Arcade1Ups, including things like Class of 81 and stuff, where you see the scoreboard that looks similar to like Blitz and everything else. So here's the thing. Gemini, the newest version, can be licensed to have Spectate, but it's only for Gemini-based games because Code Mystics own that. So it can't be put into something else. But you'll notice that Arcade1Up is using Gemini for a lot of things. Fast and Furious is using that for the thing. If Arcade1Up decides to then relicense Gemini, because right now they're licensed on an older version of it, they will get access to Spectate. But that does not mean it automatically goes on those games because it still has to be programmed in. From what I understand in talking to Code Mystics directly, it's not that difficult to add in. So, case in point, for something like Mortal Kombat, the only thing that's holding Spectate back from that, from having the same exact experience as Killer Instinct, which is the bleeding edge of Spectate, because you can put quarter up, you can do all types of things you can't even do on Fightcade. The only thing is the money for the license, and I'm not saying anything that's like, you know, out of school, because that's been said. They have to relicense it with that, and then they have to pay the dev to then incorporate it into the next game. Now, moving forward, if an MK4 or something like that came out, a new title that was going to use Gemini that came out, and someone said in those meetings when they're making this up, go, hey, this is an opportunity to relicense and now get Spectate, they could then easily put it into the other games. Now, the thing about this is again, it's not free. None of this is free. The license itself is pretty expensive, and then also the coding is expensive. So they have to look at it as a return on investment. Now, if we rewind to your exact question, when things like KI and stuff started coming out and they realized there was no Spectate, there was a moment where Arcade1Up could have said, this is important, but I don't even think they really knew. The one person who knew how important it was John D. And it was because of Put Your Quarters on the Glass. For anyone who was around, those were the golden years of Friday nights. Those were Friday nights I looked forward to as a viewer. So the long and the short of it is, someone in there, someone who's in those meetings has to fight for it and go, this is why. I think John D is now in a position where he now has more data to be able to go, look at how the uplift that KI had, because before there was no other game they could go before Spectate and after Spectate. And this is what happened. Now they do have the data, and now he can go to them and say, this is what, you know, we're going to get out of the spend.
So we get another super chat here from DLW Plays Games. And Travis, I've kept you for a very long time. We're going to clue up.
Oh, whatever's covered. What am I going to do?
Last super chat. How long was the production of Dragon's Lair, and how close do you think we are to running out? So I don't know how many. Pardon?
Are they still on the website for sale?
I believe so, yeah.
I don't think there's that many left. I don't know. We can ask on One Update. We can ask like for the nice thing about One Update. I want you to also, again, I don't want to need to pat myself on the back too much, but once again, we got actual numbers of how many Fast and Furious. Where do you think that came from?
Oh, it's that trick, the Shopify trick. You just go in and you.
No, but the thing is that, you know, John D, by the way, is on board for being as transparent about these things as possible. However, it never was not a thing at all until I said on, what was it, Star Wars, I said, you need to tell them how many there. We're not doing this stuff no more. And it's nice to now be a normal thing. So now you know. So the language of, oh, you better hurry before they get out. You already know. 6,000. That's going to last a while. You're good.
Yeah.
Same thing with the remake of Star Wars. You kind of know. So I don't know what this is, but I think we can probably find out. I will say this. I don't know if you've noticed, but if you go to Arcade1Up's webpage, normal Killer Instinct, oh, it was sold out. Is it? Do they still have any left? I was told they don't have any more. It does show that they still have some, but if they do, it's like super minimal because I'm pretty sure they were sold out of them. Anyway, yeah. So, yeah.
There's a rumor that people think that when Arcade1Up has a restock on their website, that they're actual buybacks. But to my understanding, Arcade1Up doesn't do a lot of buybacks.
It can be a lot of reasons. Sometimes there have been times where I've heard of things where like a retailer had an idea for something and they're like, we weren't able to do it. And I think it also has to do with the contract that Arcade1Up has with the different vendors and stuff as to whether or not Arcade1Up still owns the inventory when they're given, or if it is now, like, for example, Best Buys, and they just need to figure out what they're going to do with it. One of the things you'll notice is the MVCs that went out on Walmart weren't necessarily MVCs that were sent to Walmart. Those were the As Seen on TV folks.
Yeah.
So whenever you see something that's like, and I think that happened with Star Wars. Or Star Wars was on the website and then also only at As Seen on TV, or what's the other name? I forget.
As Seen on TV, Shop Hippo.
Shop Hippo. If Shop Hippo's like, if they want to, they'll sell them on Walmart. They have a thing through Walmart.
Yeah.
So you can be aware that that's why they show up on Walmart. It is still Shop Hippo. They're just doing it through Walmart. So what's the question? Oh, do you ever talk about meetings? In meetings? I mean, I don't know about in meetings, but your name has certainly come up before.
Well, they sent you a cab, Zohar. I mean, obviously they know who you are.
Yeah. I mean, everyone that I've ever talked to in that company knows who Zohar is. Even people that I didn't think would know who Zohar is know who Zohar is.
Yeah. So I love this super chat. Thank you very much, Zohar. It's like one of those ones where you're like, hey, has your sister been asking about me?
Yeah, it's what P-Dubs always says about, hey, there's no girl that's saying hi.
Did you ever hear the story behind where kind of that came from?
No. What is that from?
So we were at that iArcade Game and Brew, and anyways, P-Dubs went up to one of the attractive marketing people that works for iArcade, and he was like, "You know who I am, right?" And she was like, "Of course I do. You're Michael B. the Game Genie."
That's hilarious. Were they being funny or were they being serious?
No, they were serious. Here's a really interesting one. This is another racer that I think most people would have expected maybe before Fast and the Furious. Hydro Thunder, the Thunder series. Like, can they put in the whole Thunder series, maybe the newest recreations of the Thunder series, Rush series, California Speed, and Off-Road since Midway owns them?
I think they can do different. I think they can get any of those because they have so many licenses. I think the question is with Hydro Thunder, isn't the one thing about Hydro Thunder that it was like the sit down thingy? Am I thinking of the right one?
Yeah.
Like, how fun would that be as a stand up? I feel like you're losing a lot of the experience. Am I wrong?
You 100% are. I will tell you that I prefer the stand up racing cabinets from Arcade1Up, but I miss a seat. My problem with this sit down racing cabinet format that Arcade1Up had, it's just wrong. There's got to be some way that they can build it and even just come up with some kind of concept for a chair that you can buy separately and make sure the cab isn't too tall for your feet to reach the pedals from the chair or stool. Like, if they can figure that out, they've got a winner on their hands. Like, I even had to go out and buy a special stool for my racing cab so I could sit on the stool and my little legs could still make it down to the pedals.
Yeah, it is a problem because then you got to put that into a box and it's got to not be kind of, there's
That's
a lot
where
of,
it gets difficult. Yeah.
And then there's a lot of bigger guys here in this community, me being one of them. You need to be sturdy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, I'm one of them too, Travis. I don't know if you saw what I had for lunch today. I had a donut burger.
I'm like, bro, we would have such a good time, but we'd also probably die of diabetes the same.
100%.
Yeah.
I was in a burger eating competition one time and I had like a 5-pound burger that I had to eat in like 90 minutes. Yeah. And I swear to God, like halfway through, I was like, I'm going to die here. I'm going to die in this restaurant.
Have you ever gone to Vegas?
I've been to Vegas one time for a very short period of time.
If you go, have you heard about serial killers?
No.
Okay. So when you go to Vegas next time, Google serial killers. They have a cereal eating challenge that is ridiculous. And if you like cereal, you may die eating the cereal.
I do like cereal. Yeah.
Google it. Look it on YouTube. Tons of videos. Anyway, when they do a limited circuit, is there a database of where the cabs are? I don't know. Like, why would they even care? Yeah, why would they care?
I don't even know if Arcade1Up has a database of the cabs they have in their warehouse.
I mean, did you hear the fact that some of them got stolen off like a train or a truck or something? They don't know where anything. I mean, they had guys with bandit masks coming at night on a horse and taking away Arcade1Ups.
Can you convince them to make 720?
I don't think I have to convince them of that. I've heard tale of them understanding that might be a cool cab, but I think it's also complicated because it was a big cab. It was a weirdly shaped cab. So yeah. I think they'd have to figure out a custom cab that made sense. That's not so weirdly, awkwardly big and ugly. weird. But they could do it, and I think they probably someday will.
John D has actually alluded to it a couple times, so I think it's a probability that it might get done at some point. Before I let you go, okay, one question here. Cabs labeled only Arcade1Up game came through the port on the 14th. What do you think they are? Weigh 62 pounds, casino cades, more Fast and Furious, or maybe riserless Walmart stock?
On the 14th?
Yeah.
So a week ago?
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely not Fast and Furious. I think that's too light. 62 pounds is way too light. Casino cades, maybe. Riserless arcade.
Walmart.
Walmart.
David McIntosh did say 45 days, remember? And other retailers would have stock. And that was episode 3 of One Update.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, is he talking about through the port of Canada?
No. We don't know what's happening with Canada yet. I got to talk to you about that.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I could be Casino Cades or Riserless Walmart stock. I'm surprised they actually didn't say what they were, because always they say. I wonder if they're starting to catch on. I wonder if that's the new thing where they just stop putting the names of what they are. Because you know I said the whack-a-mole thing?
Yeah.
So maybe this is the answer.
They're getting smarter. So I'm just going to stroke our egos here. Can you guys make this a regular show? Great show. Oh, thank you.
I like it. I love Mike, man. I love Mike. I love what he does. I'd come on anytime he wants to.
So I did get some sad news today for Fast and the Furious fans. Sad news. We found out actually there's no scheduled release for Fast and the Furious for Canada. That's not to say Canada won't be able to buy them. Like eventually when they come to Arcade1Up.com, you can order it through there, and you can probably order through Shop Hippo. We've been able to order Shop Hippo in Canada, but it doesn't look like we're getting a retail release. So that was kind of a bummer.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Now they're saying 68 pounds for Fast and Furious. Actually, it might be, because I forgot. Fast and Furious doesn't have a riser, and these boxes are smaller. It actually could be Fast and Furious. Although I know that those cabs had come through a couple of weeks ago. It's hard to say. Could be. Could also be. No, Casino Cades wouldn't be sick. No, it could be Casino. I don't know. I actually don't know. Could be any of them.
Well, I mean, if it is something, you would figure you'd have a show scheduled, Travis. If it's something new.
So I knew when the Fast and Furious came in, because it was a while ago. There might be a second shipment of the Fast and Furious was labeled. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's interesting. Donut burger. Yes, I would do donut burger. Do you remember when KFC had the donut chicken sandwich a couple of years ago?
Oh man, I love waffle chicken. Like that's a winning combination. So donut and chicken.
Donut chicken. You never saw that?
No, we didn't. We get a different menu in Canada. That's what you did. Like you can understand. Like we don't get half the stuff here. Do you know I don't have a Pizza Hut here? Do you know how long it's been since I had that?
Oh my god!
Absolute lightning hot pan pizza come out and served at the table. The skillet of doom.
What do you guys have instead? What's the Canadian Pizza Hut look like?
No. There's Pizza Hut in Canada. I'm on an island, and
right, you're in Newfoundland.
Yeah,
which I actually thought was like west of New Zealand or some shit. I didn't know. I know there's a dog called a Newfoundland, but I don't know anything about an actual place.
Yeah, it's this little island. There's only 500,000 people here, but Pizza Hut is owned by the same company that owns KFC and Taco Bell, and they just pulled up stakes here. The only one we have is KFC, and it's too expensive to actually bring stuff in. Even KFC, everything you see for the Canadian ads, you add like $1.99 to us. They'll be like, "Hey, 2 chicken sandwiches for $4.99," and I'm like, "Oh, that's going to be $7 when it hits Newfoundland."
$27.
So, but they deemed it was too expensive to open a Taco Bell franchise here. I have a Facebook page. Newfoundland needs a Taco Bell. We're never getting it. Wow. And they also deemed that we had 2 Pizza Huts. They're gone, but there's a rumor we're getting a Pizza Hut again very soon. And Travis, I can't wait. It's been about 4 years now since I've had Pizza Hut.
Can you fly off of Newfoundland? Do you have to go on a boat somewhere and then get to an airport? Or how does it work?
No, we can fly off. The only problem is it's really super expensive to fly off. Like at one point, like flying somewhere else in Canada cost about $700 to $800, and the majority of that was getting off the island.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
what do they do? Put the planes on the water and take off from there? Like what? The hell?
No. It's the I don't know how it works. There's only one place that the flights are more expensive out of. It's another island here in Canada called Prince Edward Island, and they're the only place that it's more expensive to fly out of than Newfoundland. It's just because the amount of flights coming in, and I always say this one wrong. Economies of scale or economies of scope. I don't know which one it is, but yeah.
Did you were you born and raised in Newfoundland, or did you just end up there?
No, I was born and raised here, and I'm trapped here because my wife is a lawyer that works at her family business with her dad, who's never going to leave. And I'm like, they got arcades in other provinces and countries, Lara. I could just go to the arcade. I don't need to buy my own pinball machine.
And Pizza Huts. I mean, can
and
we
Pizza
do
Huts?
Pizza Huts with arcades? Yeah. What does he say? Okay. What else? Oh, there's some good questions. There's a whole bunch of good questions coming in. Real quick, let's get these.
No.
Free cruising.
I had to go back.
Free cruising. I don't know, Console Fanboy, because I think the problem is the licensor. Because doesn't Nintendo own that, or is that something else?
No, Nintendo does own that. It is Raw Thrills. Raw Thrills has a partnership with Nintendo. That's why when we saw the last game, Cruise and Blast, the console port only came to Nintendo Switch for that reason. Travis, I completely lost it with the chat. Where am I missing?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, Amano, thank you so much, my friend. It's incredibly difficult. So it's weird because I have a lot of friends that are their dogs are passing away over the last 3 weeks. Well, one of my good friends I used to work with, who Nathan used to be pals with, passed away today. It's not something that
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah. Fast and Furious review. That's a good question. As it was, John D couldn't even get one. So if that tells you anything.
Yeah. Here's another thing that there's this misconception that I know Arcade1Up had this promotion that we talked about, like where they were trying to get influencers to make videos. It wasn't targeted at like normal YouTubers that would make videos anyways. This was more so trying to get people outside the space to, get loud and make more information about Arcade1Up. But
I wish you had been on the call I was on when that whole kerfuffle happened.
Yeah.
And I kind of got to the point where I'm like, I'm going to say some things and they might not ask me to ever do a live stream again, but I said them anyway.
Yeah.
And I was like, you guys are dumb. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, of all people to send the email to, like, how dumb do you have to be? Anyway, let's move on.
So this is something that you use the term out of school. I'll just take you behind the scenes for a real quick second. Of all the companies that send out review units, and Arcade1Up's the stingiest. Like, honestly, man, I've never got a review unit from Arcade1Up. I got a discount.
$8 million to get it to you.
Yeah, I got a discount on NBA Jam one time, but like it's really expensive to get them out here. But like every other company in the home arcade space is always like, "Hey, Mike, we like your videos. Here's a cab. We want to work with you." Arcade1Up, never, and they don't work with many people. Like for the last like 4 or 5 years, the only review cabins they sent out were to Cool Toy and Retro Ralph continuously. Those are the two people they work with.
I do want to talk about that real quick. Jason, Biggie, I appreciate you guys. Again, I don't want to sidetrack this whole thing, but I do want to acknowledge, as being a dog owner for 15 years, losing my dog was one of the worst things in my entire life. Thank you guys for shouting out. I appreciate that. So, okay, yes, to what you're saying. It's weird though, because you look at the two people who were getting cabinets recently, neither one of them really covers Arcade1Up anymore. And at times you'll find them tweeting like they don't like Arcade1Up, which is weird, right? So it's like, why is that happening? I have thoughts on this. I mean, I'm pretty sure we're going to see at least one member of the community get Fast and Furious. I feel like that's going to happen.
You mentioned earlier, Jade.
Yeah. I believe she's going to end up with one. And I think for multiple reasons, it's good that she gets one because, again, she has the real thing. It's going to be the best review, period. Plus, she's awesome at reviews. I think moving forward, they should. But if I'm being real honest, I think here's one of the reasons why. Well, there's two reasons why. One I know for sure and one I think. The one I know for sure is they do want to like broaden their brand to places outside of the community that exists. They already know that people exist in here and, they already know that, right? And number two, and this is what I think, based on my experience on YouTube and stuff, they know you guys are going to cover it anyway. So why would they send you one when half of you are going to buy it or review it or talk about it or stuff? Well, what's the point? Why would they bother?
We get the advertisement anyways.
Again, that's just me thinking. That's probably what they're thinking. I'm not saying I've ever heard that.
Well, no. The point I was making though with this was there's this concept that like all these YouTubers that cover Arcade1Up that like everybody's bought and paid for, they work for them. And I got Chaotic BPR up here. That was, I got a discount on those cabs. I did not get review cabs. John D said, "Hey, I'm going to give you a discount on this cab. Could you make a review for it too?" And I said, "Sure." Let's be clear about that. I never got cab for free from Arcade1Up. The point I'm making though is out of all the companies, they've probably given away the least product to YouTubers and influencers in terms of the home arcade space. That's the point I'm making. So these conceptions that people are like, oh, Arcade1Up's got everybody there. The people that have good relationships with Arcade1Up, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I'll say it. It's because they're really good friends with the people that work at Arcade1Up. Like,
Yeah,
they're
of
friends
course.
with John D. That's it. If
Well,
you
by
wonder
the
why
way,
somebody's on a show, it's because they're friends.
yeah, but here's the thing: John D can't get people cabs. So
No.
let's start there. John D cannot get anyone a cab. That's more of a. I think Cyrus might be able to, and then certainly DMAC can. So those are the guys that are more kind of in charge of those purse strings, so to speak. So it's ironic that people will go, "Oh, they're just from John D. That's what we're doing." John D can't get them cabs. The cab that UAG got, the Blitz cab, Johnny had nothing to do with that. So it's kind of funny.
Is that out there in the community where that came from?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's out in the community, like how he got it from Arcade1Up, and that's out there. But I'm not sure if like who he talked to get it to, and that's not important. But important, okay. What is important is John D did not give him that cab. So, and John D can't give anyone that cab. So we'll see where things end up. I think that there are people that the person in this community, like I said, that absolutely needs to have this cab. 100% is Jade. I think everyone's going to respect that review, so I think she needs to have it. I think there's and when Killer Instinct came out, Twisted Chris made sense. CAG would have made sense. Like, there's certain people in the community that makes sense. If a Robotron came out, if it didn't cost $12 million, we would get it to Michael B, right? Because we want to see that review. But that's the thing. It's like, we'll see. Which is okay. So here's something I will say I haven't said anywhere else. And someone just said it in chat, so I might as well just say it. You ever think about calling out the real problem here, Arcade1Up CEO, Scott Bacharach? I am on the trail to try to have a Arcade1 update with Scott. I am trying desperately to make that happen. That would be likely one of my last shows. I feel like it's the show that needs to happen. With the type of cabs and the type of questions that'll come up in the next couple of months, I feel like the vast majority of the information that you need to know about how Arcade1 works and everything is already out. But I want to sit down with Scott, and I think, the way I'm working with it right now, trying to get that to happen. That's the one that I think will be the most impactful Arcade1 update show ever. And I think that'll be it, because I'll pull no punches, but I'll be fair. And I think that we haven't really heard from Scott in a very long time. I think it's time for him to say something. And I think we want to hear his vision. What's going on? How did this stuff happen? How are you from the top going to make sure some of this silliness doesn't happen again? So we'll see.
So you ever watch the show Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
I've seen bits and pieces, yes.
Oh, bits and pieces. You might not understand this. So they did this funny thing about this company NutriBoom, which was a pyramid scheme that was actually a cult. And at the end of it, they were talking about how the leader, his wife disappeared, and like all this stuff. So it kind of feels like that. Like, is Scott Bacharach a real person? Is John D just using him as a puppet? Where is he? Where's his whereabouts?
Could be. Yeah. That's a good question. And I want to ask all the like real hard hitting questions. So we'll see. I would treat him fair. We'll see. That's definitely the one that I'm working on, and hopefully one day I get that one.
I think Scott doesn't understand that, like, he's an amazing salesperson. Like, I talk about it. Like, I feel like they got like this nuclear weapon of a personality and salesperson that they could bring out there, and just like, I remember he did stuff with Retro Ralph when Retro Ralph was going to when he was more into covering Arcade1Up, he was going to CES. And like, Scott was such a dynamic personality. I would love to see him back in some way. So I'm very happy to hear that you want to do that.
Yeah, I started thinking about it the other day, and I started talking to various people saying, "Hey, can we make this happen?" And they were like, "Yeah, I think so." I think we just need to talk to Scott about it and make sure he understands what it is. But I've interviewed famous people, I've interviewed non-famous people, I've talked to different people. I think I could get the job done here, and I think the community deserves it. So we'll see. So good question, Jason. I just texted John D. We'll see.
So I don't know if you heard about this one. Back when I got my Killer Instinct cab, I actually got it from a friend of mine who wanted to do a trade with me. He said, "You can take my Killer Instinct cab and do a review with it." And then we ended up doing a trade. I gave him my Capcom Legacy cab for it. He was like, "Yeah, that's fine. That's a fair trade." Mm-hmm. Some people in the community came up with this concept that Mike Dalton was a fake person, and I was using it as an excuse to explain my addiction to buying Arcade1Up cabs.
Listen, I'll tell you, man, being a person who puts content out on YouTube, you just get some really interesting.
It was wild, man.
Why would I go through the trouble of some of the conspiracy theories are so funny that it's like, why would I even bother doing that? Like, what's the thing? Wow.
Okay. This is going to be the last question, guys, because
Yeah.
I've kept Travis here way too long.
That's fine. I'm going to go to sleep soon, but I'm good until then. Okay. So Infinity Game Table. I've always wanted the Infinity Game table, not the Infinity Game board. So the board's the new one. I always kind of wanted the table just because I had some friends that played a lot of board games. I thought it'd be fun to have people over, and I still kind of want it, but I don't think I would ever pay $1,000 for it. The table is interesting because you actually can take it places, but you're sacrificing some things while gaining others. It's obviously more portable. So you can go over to your friend. It's not as weird as taking a freaking table over to your friend's house to play a game. Like that makes more sense. But then there's things like the games you can play with like 6 players or whatever. Now you're kind of over this smaller, weird, and now it's just weird, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting something and losing something. I think it's great. I think it's not aimed at us. It's aimed at a different group of people that think, especially families and stuff, they think it's dope. And they're like, this is great. And there's tons of people who love board games. And I think they would fall over their face, even though you go, oh, it's just a big Android tablet. Sure. But to the family of 4 that play Monopoly every other week, this is the most amazing thing they've ever seen.
And Cleveland Gaming Classic, I actually have an Infinity Game table. I have the 24-inch one. And when we first got it, it was the new hot thing in our house. We played a bunch of it. Now it's kind of been a little bit forgotten. And that's kind of the feedback I get from a lot of people. It's something you get and you're really excited about. But then at the same time, it's just now I'm like, oh yeah, I got that. I should play that with my daughter sometime. But at first, every single day we were doing something with it. So it's got a ton of replayability. I think it's also, and I know this comes down to licensing and money that goes into it, but there's some potential there that it doesn't have. Like I think potential that's there that's missed. So one thing when this first came out, I was like, that's such a cool opportunity to do some kind of tabletop like D&D style games and shit like that. And there's I think like tablet games called like Roll20 or something like that. If they could go in that direction, I think that would open up to a new, like, I don't know. Do you go to any of these like comic stores and they have like these card tournaments and D&D tournaments and stuff when you walk in and you feel like you're in the wrong place and you need to get out of there soon?
I have a friend that's really into that stuff, and sometimes I'll go places with him and I'll see that. And I love nerd culture and I love nerd documentary. I love that stuff. I don't feel like I'm necessarily in some of it. I mean, obviously I'm in the geek culture of video games, but I love being around it and watching because I think it's just interesting. It's different. So I think that there are entire groups of people that would be like, this is the most amazing thing, and wouldn't get bored of it. But to your point, and what I do know about this, which I'm only recently gathered this, is they have actually tried to get more games for this thing than you realize. And sometimes it's the owners of the board games and stuff that are like, I don't get it. We're not interested. But now that it's out and they've sold a bunch of them and stuff like that, they can now go back to those manufacturers and those game owners and go, well, look what it is now. Because now I know they just came out with a new software update and it looks cool and stuff. Now they can go back and pitch it to some of these people who maybe said no the first time and try to get new titles. I will tell you, they are constantly trying to get new titles. There are beta tests for the IGT all the time, and they're always trying to get new titles and testing new titles all the time. So I do know that there is a strong passion within the company to make that a really awesome product.
And this is Scott's dream product too, isn't it? Like he did this big thing. Yeah,
maybe it is. I mean, that would make more sense because it's a very random out of everything else. Very random. I was like, what the hell does this got to do with retro arcade? It really doesn't, but it's kind of cool.
Well, I actually bought my first add-on game for my Infinity Game table. I still haven't played it, but I bought my first add-on game about when was it? 4 or 5 weeks ago. They brought Risk there, the game of global domination. So I was excited to see that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you get into the beta test, you get to beta test a bunch of games for free.
Yeah, but I don't want to get into the beta test because I don't
Well,
want to know,
IGT,
Travis.
you can do it for IGT though. I mean, you're not covering IGT stuff. Come on.
I do sometimes. I don't want to
do you?
know anything. Yeah, I don't. I avoid it as much as possible now. I don't want to know. I don't want to know because it'll ruin my experience.
I respect that. By the way, I'm the same way with like movies. When I know there's a good movie I want to go see, I don't watch a trailer. I don't watch any. If I already know I'm going to see it, I'm just going to watch it. I want to be surprised by everything. Trailers sometimes have too much of the good stuff. You go to the movie like, oh, the movie is all right. Well, it's because you saw everything good in the 2-minute trailer 3 months ago. I don't know any of that. It's like new Matrix, I'm in. New John Wick, I'm in. I have no idea what happens in John Wick. I can't wait to watch that. So,
Yeah. Well, I've kept you 2 hours now, guys. You were all fantastic in the chat. Thanks for sticking with us. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. And Travis, thank you so much for being here. I think that was what was missing from today's episode, just a little bit of community engagement. And thank you so much for providing that tonight. I really appreciate it.
I have fun, man. Whenever you want me on and stuff and I'm not doing something else, which most of the time I'm not, hit me up. I love this. It's great. It's fun. Well, your community is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, what do you guys like to be called? Home Arcade? Retro Home Arcade?
Are you guys the Michael Beesies? The Beesies? Michael Beesies.
I don't know. I think they just come. They feel bad for me.
The M Beers. What do we call it? You got to come up with a name real quick before we go. Before we go, what is the name of the Michael B community? What are they called? I need to hear.
Well, it's an old joke from our show. I've got I guess, what do they call it? They have your supporters on YouTube, like you have your members and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So they're my only flans because we had this joke. We had this joke about flan and only flans on Super Game Room Dude. So I went with that.
Nerds. Michael B. I like those.
Bees knees isn't bad.
There's the only friends. Yeah. The Michael Beers. Yeah, that's not a bad one.
Yeah.
I think people like the only flans. Michael's only flans.
I'm going to stick with the only flans for now. It makes me happy.
Thanks, everybody. You guys are amazing. I actually really like your community a lot. They're super cool, super fun, and I love it.
Yeah, I love this. Thank you so much, Travis. Everybody, have a wonderful night, and see you next time. Yeah, we're going to play that now. That's the fun part.